Hi everyone, welcome back to RTS and welcome back to part 3 in our photo series. Now what do we have up today? Today we are absolutely going to talk about printing at home, what I use. I got some questions about that, and then also to some online processors. I've been experimenting with that, and then also to setting up a printing schedule because I've been rocking at that. Yes, I have. So what I say is go grab a cup of joe and let's go. Let's talk about printing our photos. Yes, okay, so hold on. Okay, so now let's talk about printing our photos either at home or an online processor because I do a little bit of both, but there's a difference in both, and so we'll talk about that. So in the previous segment, which this won't get that long, sorry, that got a little long-winded, sorry, is that, we've edited and tagged and, deleted, and we got a good shot. So how are we going to print it? And really this is, again, a subjective issue, meaning some people are going to like to print at home and some people are going to want to send it out. There is no wrong answer. However, you can get a better photo by what you select, either in a home printer or an online processor, and I'm just going to tell you what my experience is with both, but again, start with your reference point, what you're used to getting. Okay, so for me, in a quick manner, what do I use to print at home? Because for me, I print mainly all my photos at home unless it's a big trip. This Charleston trip here, that was a big trip. This was just a day trip. This isn't even all of them. It just was a big trip for the day, and so I wanted to have these I wanted to try out an online processor, and that's what I did. So I take my trips, and that's when I try out an online processor. Okay, and so I'll talk more about that. So basically, if it's a trip, it's going to an online processor, which I'm trying to do that because printing a big trip at home can take time. But for the majority of my photos that I scrapbook with, I print at home, and what do I use? I use an Epson PictureMate PM-400. Now that model in and of itself is basically just prints a 4x6 on a wallet. Is no longer available. They discontinued it, but they do have a model that is Epson PictureMate P400, and that prints a wallet, a 4x6, and a 5x7. Now, I don't use 5x7 very often in my scrapbooking, so if I had that option, I don't know if I would use it that much. So that's not a breaking point for me to get a 5x7 photo printer. But if it's there, why not play with it? Okay, so what I wanted to say is I will have a link below if you're interested in Epson photo printers, because there's something I recently learned about, or I should say my husband recently learned about Epson photo printers. And so I will list below what Epson considers a photo printer, because Epson has a lot of printers. So the one thing I want to say is when you're looking at getting a home printer, do your research, ask people what they like, what they don't like, and don't rely on the people in the stores. Okay, with a short story. Okay, sorry, short story. My husband wanted to surprise me this past Christmas with a new Epson printer because he knows how I love Epson printers. So he went to the store, got some advice, and so they sold him an EcoTank with all the bells, all the whistles, this and that, and the guy told him, this is better than any Epson picture made out there. Well, come to find out, after I did my research, because I didn't know he was going to get this printer, Epson does not even consider anything in the EcoTank line as a photo printer. It's just a printer that can print photos. So there is clearly a difference when you are wanting to buy a home printer. Make sure that the company that you want to go with considers that a photo printer, not just a printer that's capable of printing photos, if that makes sense. So there my husband dropped all these hundreds of bucks into this Epson. It's a beautiful printer, but it's not a photo printer. It's not classified as a photo printer. It's just a printer, EcoTank, that you don't have to buy ink for 2 years, but that doesn't mean it's a photo printer. It can print photos, but it's not a photo printer, and this is what I'm used to. So, lesson learned there. And so my husband felt bad. He said, well, this is what the guy told me. Yes, the guys and salespeople will tell you anything to get a sale, but he was incorrect. Okay, so with whatever you go with, Epson, Canon, whatever, go to their websites and look at what they classify in their line of models, what they consider a photo printer. And for Epson, they have a separate part on their website just for photo printers. And I can tell you the EcoTanks of Epson do not fall in the line with a photo printer. Oh, yeah, the guy at Best Buy, yeah, you can kiss my patootie, you were wrong. But, several $100 wasted there. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on. So with my Epson PictureMate 225, what ink do I buy? because I am going to use this model until it runs, and that's what I've done with every one of my Epson PictureMates. I think this is my 5th or 6th one, and not that they go bad that often, it's just that I have used them from day one, and that's always what I've been using. So I want to, really thank my husband that when he got me a home printer, I started with something that was really, really good to begin with, okay, and that's Epson PictureMate. So I use these ink packs that come with ink and paper all together. I don't buy my paper separate, and I don't buy my ink separate. I do think if you're going to go with Epson, buy them in the ink and photo pack together. And this gives me 150 photos, and my model is T5846 because if you notice, I prefer glossy. Okay, some people prefer the matte, so definitely that's an option. That's definitely a preference. There is no right way or wrong way. I just prefer glossy. Okay, and so then my software is my FinePix Studio, and that is just something that gets bundled with my Fuji camera. So it's not like I went out and bought that specifically, that software to use with my Epson. It's just that's what came with my camera, and that's what I suggest. Start with what you already have and play with that, because then you may not need Photoshop and all these other things. You don't have to download anything, buy anything. Start with what your camera already has or what your computer already offers. Start with that before you go buy anything, because if you go buy software, then you're going to have to learn how to do that software. And for me, this FinePix is simply dropping and dragging a photo and picking the option I want. Okay, so, and I'll talk more about sizes and what I prefer when we get to that category. But with my Epson PictureMate and my FinePix software, I double, maybe almost triple the size of photos that I can get. And so that was one tip I wanted to bring up, is that whatever software you have, it doesn't matter, nothing's better than anything. Go in and experiment and definitely look in all these tabs. What are all your options? And you may think, especially if you're an Epson, because Epson is marketed for a 4x6 and wallet, but I get 4x4s, I get index prints, I get fax prints, I get a lot of different things because of my software. So that's what I wanted to say. Just because you have a photo printer, look at what your software offers, and maybe your printer will be compatible to that. Okay, and then also too, we'll talk about costs. Let's do that now. Ink. Okay, my software costs me nothing because it's a bundle with my camera, and with the Fuji cameras, you get software with it, so that's a bonus. So look at what you already have. Okay, you might just have a disk floating around somewhere and you have software and you don't even know you own it. So definitely look at where you have your camera manuals and things. You may have software already there, you just never did anything with it. Okay, so for my ink, how much does this compute as far as cost? Because we're going to talk about that when we get to online processing, so might as well talk about this now. For me to print at home, there's 150 sheets that come in this, but every single time I use this print pack, I get more than 150 photos. And that's why I had to buy a separate photo paper pack, because I get more than 150. So I think that's awesome. It's you get 150, but I end up getting usually about 175 to 180. I get additional about 130. So the cost for me, depending on where you get, these are getting harder to find, is about $43. So my cost approximately is around 26 cents to 30 cents for a photo. And I just consider that a household expense. That's not a scrapbooking expense, because I would print photos regardless. So that is what printing at home is. And so I know my dad, when he started printing at home, he says, oh man, that's expensive. I said, well, you kind of get what you pay for. So, for me to drive somewhere, get things, online, we'll talk about that, okay? So you go with what you know. I'm printing at home, and I'm happy with my results. One thing when you're buying ink, especially if you're ordering online, pay attention to your expiration dates, especially if you're ordering from Amazon, and you know how we get those third-party sellers. There is an expiration date to ink. Who knew? Absolutely. Okay, so then with my PictureMate, I also can print. So I can do 4x6 with a border. I can do 4x4s, I can do wallets, okay? And this is just simply, in my Epson PictureMate, changing the size of your borders to get a 4x4. I want to talk about that. So basically what you do is, how you go in and you just print a 4x6, okay? But then you can go in and select borders, and you get this. Okay, just an even border of a margin of 3. But if you go in and you select a margin of, let's get to this one. A margin of 3, 3, and 3, and then say 60, on just one of your margins, you get a 4x4 photo. So definitely play with that. The day I discovered that, and I'm not taking credit for that, somebody probably told me, I was so ecstatic. Yes, because at one time 4x4s was the big thing, and that is what's considered a fax print. Now this is what's considered an index print. So I can also do index prints if I want to include a lot of photos on a page, and then black and white. And this is something I recently printed, and this is in the sepia tone only because of the image that my dad had captured on his trail camera. Okay, so but that's really not true sepia. It's just the way it turned out because of the image that my dad sent. And then of course wallets. Okay, and I get 2 wallets on one 4x6. Okay, so that is my Epson, that's my paper, that's my ink, my software. And again, my software is called My FinePix Studio. It just comes bundled with your Fuji. Look at what you already have. And I think that is what we're going to talk about, other than when it comes to printing at home. Okay, definitely ask what other people are using and go by what they recommend, not what someone is selling. Ask people who are scrapbookers, who are printing at home, who is already having success. Ask them what they're using, and then learn some camera settings as far as what your camera offers, and then what's compatible to what your printer offers. And then when you find a company that you like, for me it's Fuji for cameras, for me it's Epson for printers. Those two go together so well. I just love a Fuji camera with an Epson printer. But then also too with that, I use my iPhone a lot. Okay, now this is just a trail camera. Okay, now my dad's big into trail cameras, but this trail camera here, they're not the best quality because this was taken at dusk, okay, near getting dark. And so I think my Epson PictureMate takes my photos to a better level. Okay, especially my iPhone. I mean, this camera's good, but this camera's getting to be about 14 years old. 14 years for a camera in today's technology, that's crazy. And iPhones, they're good, but I think it's my Epson PictureMate, I think, that take my photos to another level, and I'm used to this quality of level when it comes to my photos, and we'll talk about that in online processing. So then if you need any help, I wanted to say this in a previous segment, ask teenagers, especially with an iPhone, they're going to know so many more things that we don't, because I know my daughter teaches me things all the time with my iPhone and cameras and settings. So definitely just sit and play with your cameras and your printers, and over time, every so often, you're like, I didn't know that my printer did that. I didn't know my camera did that. So again, it's one of those things about playing. Okay, so now let's come back and we're going to talk about online processors, because boy, I have a story for you about that. But for the majority of my photos, that is what I use for my printer, my ink, and my software. And I really don't want to change that anytime soon. That's just what I'm happy with. But if my Epson kicked the bucket today, then I definitely would go with the Epson PictureMate PM-400, and I would totally be happy with that, because that's just what I'm happy with. I'm happy with the Epson PictureMates. Now, the scuttlebutt on the street is, whether this is true or not, that Epson will be coming out with another PictureMate version very, very soon. It's made the market in other countries, so I don't know if it's going to make it to America this year, but that's the scuttlebutt on the street, okay? So if you are looking at an Epson photo printer, I just want to say, do not go with anything that is marketed as an eco tank, okay? That is not considered a photo printer by Epson. Okay, and again, I'll list that link below, and you can see all the printers, photo printers that Epson offers. It's not just PictureMates, they have other photo printers too. But of course, you know, when you go from PictureMate and you get onto the bigger models, you get a bigger price tag. This has to be affordable to me because I use it all the time. Okay, so let's stop there, and we're going to talk about online processing and more printing of photos. Okay, hang on. Okay, so now let's talk about online processors when it comes to printing photos, because printing at home is not always an option for everyone, nor is it a desire, because it does take time, it does take money, and but I think it's fun printing at home. I like that option. But at the same time, when you have a bigger trip, you know, sending all of those photos at one time with one trip to one place and just getting them all back in a bundle, that's pretty nice too. But we're going to talk about what luck and what not so luck I've had with online processing, because I'm really, really anxious to see what you gals share below in the comment section. Now with that, this video is going to be long, but this is basically a tutorial, a learning, and a sharing. So if you have to do more than one post, basically just talking about printing better photos, or what you use at home for printing, or what you're using online. Please leave as many different comments as you want. This is an online conversation, so we can learn about printing photos, because this is always going to be an obstacle for us. It's always going to be a category. So that's why I was trying online printers, basically for bigger trips. Okay, so over the time I have tried, let's see, Snapfish, Shutterfly, Persnickety, and then that's what I tried a year or so ago. And so now what I'm down to is this box right here. And we're going to talk about the processors I tried. And now this is 1,000 photos, and this was from my last Disney trip. And I took 1,102 photos, and so I am basically printing them all because I have some different stories to tell and yada, yada, yada. So let's just break it down, shall we? And I recently just spoke with someone from an online processor, and he gave me a little bit of tidbit, so it was interesting. So someone, please do not let me forget to add that conversation in. Okay, so what I did was, when I started trying some processors, what I did a year and a half ago is that I used my Sam's Club, and I'm going to say local, but it's a 2-hour drive, so it's not so local. Sam's Club. I went in club, printed, and this is the quality I got. And I was like, oh, yes, I have this figured out. This was pretty easy. Well, then about 2 months into using this in club Sam's, I got a phone call, and they said, when you pick up your last photo order, please be aware that we're closing the photo center. Well, that just was great, right? So then what I did was I decided to use Sam's Club online. I mean, this is really, really good. 10 cents, sometimes 8 cents, and you know, sometimes they gave you 10 free. Really, really good. So then what I did was I took some photos and I printed with Sam's Club online. And you talk about difference of night and day. That is these two photos right here. This was print in club, and this was print online by the same company. Two different types of processing, two different, the ink colors is different, and then the actual photo paper itself is different. And so I recently talked to a Sam's Club representative about this, and he said basically it comes down to this: when you are doing online processing, and he said it just wasn't Sam's Club, it was any online processor. He said it basically comes down to you get what you pay for. Okay, and I said, but I'm already getting such good prints at home. I thought this would be another option. And he said, take in mind and consider this. And he was very honest. He said, when you print something online, he said, you don't know who is actually running that batch. Who is going to have more concern and consideration when they're printing that batch. If they may be trying out some different inks on that batch, or they may be trying out some different photo paper, or they switch your photo paper. So he said with online processors, he said you really don't know what you're going to get at times. And I thought that was an interesting point. And I said, but what I was getting in club was way better than I was getting online. So I wanted to bring forth that, because maybe you're used to printing something online at a company, but maybe they offer the option of printing in club or in store or on site. So maybe just give that a try and see if there is a difference. I was surprised, because I really, really thought what I got in club, I thought would equal what I was ordering online. Difference. I mean, yeah, this paper quality, well, I could sneeze my nose and it would, you know, it's nothing. It's not really worth anything. So I wanted to bring that forth, okay? Give, whatever company you're using online, if they offer it in site or on you know, in the store, give that a try. You just never know. Okay, difference there. Okay, and it was all the same price. So then what else I did then was I took the same photo, because I think that's how you can truly do a comparison of online processors, is to use the same photo. Okay, you just have to. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this one photo here. Okay, and so what I tried, and I'll tell you which companies I tried and which one I would recommend if I was to do this. Okay, now with that being said, okay, and this is, well, I'm getting two different groups here. Okay, so let's talk about, it doesn't matter, I'm going to show them all. Go get a cup of coffee. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is the same photo. And I remember when these orders would come in, I would say to my husband, okay, now this is my Epson. What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And he just got to be the point and says, I don't know. He says, don't ask me. He said, they all look the same. But if you're someone who loves photos, There's clearly a difference, okay? And so it's going to come down to what you like, nobody else, because what someone else likes, someone else is not going to like, and vice versa. So again, it all comes down to your reference point, and my reference point right here, my starting point is this Epson print I printed at home. I love the paper quality, I love the ink, okay? So I guess part of me needs to stop expecting to get something of this nature online. I just would think, especially a company that does this for a business, that you should equal or be better than what I'm printing at home. Does anybody else think that way? I mean, if this is your business, I would think that your quality should equal what someone can get at home or be better. I mean, truly, honestly. Okay, so what I did was I tried 3 different companies on this last few months of comparison, because I'm not going to show all the other ones because they're not in the running either, okay? And I know a lot of people talk about persnickety prints. I'm sorry, I just did not have luck. And I thought their customer service was lacking, but that's my opinion. Okay, so this was the Sam's Club online version. That didn't make the cut. And then this one was called Mix, M-I-X, Book, B-O-O-K, okay? The paper that this is printed on is even worse than Sam's Club online. I mean, and this is what this company does for a business? I mean, and what is this? It's Kodak? Yeah, I don't know. That must be the cheapest form of Kodak paper I've ever seen. This is really, it's just not even good quality. I'm going to say that. Okay, so Sam's Club online, that's out. This Mix Book, that's out. Shutterfly is out. Snapfish is out. Persnickety Prints is out. So then I tried one more, and what was that? M-Pix, okay? And so, which sounds very close to this Mix Book, but it's M-P-I-X, and I will have the link below, because if I was going to recommend an online processor, this would be the one, because I think this was the closest, okay? Now, it's not what I want in a photo, but if this was the only option I ever had, I'd be happy with it, okay? But it's not my reference point, okay? And so, again, I'll have that link below. The shipping was very, very fast, okay? The photo paper they used was a Kodak Professional paper. A lot different than this El Cheapo Kodak. You would think a Kodak would be good, but it's like, I think I have copy paper thicker than this, truly, okay? And then I want to show you, this is how they came. I think I had 200 photos, and this is how they came. Okay, of course they came in packaging, but they came in individual little cellophane packs. I thought that was a nice little touch. So all in all, long story short, this M-Pix, I would recommend that. It's still not the quality that with my Epson, it's just, especially the blues, can you see? It's just not there, but it's a good quality, okay? If you're someone who's tried Snapfish and Shutterfly, I would definitely try an M-Pix and only print 10 photos, but then use something that you already have. That way you can compare the same photo. Apples to apples, that type of thing, okay? So then the other one I sent off was another Disney photo, okay? And I want to see if you can pick this up. Boy, this Mix Book. Whew, that is just El Cheapo. And they were all the same. This El Cheapo was the same price as that M-Pix. So keep that in your mind. You get what you pay for. But they were all the ones I'm showing you was all the same price. Okay. So here is my Epson print. Okay. And so this is the Sam's Club. I'm going to show you just the green. Yeah, that didn't make the cut. And then this Mix Book. Well, I'm not even looking at that. Just the quality of the paper makes it terrible. And then there's the Mix Book. Let me see if I can put something here. Okay. See, the green is just not as defined and vibrant as my Epson printing at home. But it's still, I'm going to put those side by side, and you can look as much as you can look. Maybe I'll do it this way. It's okay. It's not the worst, but you can definitely see down here at the bottom. This green on here, down here at the bottom, almost doesn't even pick up, but it did in my original. So, again, it's good, but yeah, I wouldn't solely go to that, okay? But again, my reference point is Epson, okay? And here was the same one. This is my Epson, and this was that Mix Book, okay? And you can clearly tell. I would just even skip that. I wouldn't even try that. If you are particular about your photos, Mix Book. the colors were definitely off. Okay, and I think the way they framed their photos, I think they were a little off too. Okay, so that is what my luck has been, not been. Okay, now also too, when you're comparing photos, don't always just go by color, because this has nice bright color, but this is the same photo, but you can clearly tell that the definition is not here as it was in my original. The definition is just not there. It just really isn't. And you can tell they just blew this up. That's not even the same image. Okay, but it's the same photo. I mean, I just love my Epson PictureMate. Yeah, and I might as well just give it up. And that's what my husband said to me. He said, why are you even bothering? Just print everything with Epson. I'll buy you the ink. What's the big deal? This is the big deal. This is the big deal. When you have 1,000 photos to print, printing them at home, this is why I have been behind in photo printing since I went digital. That and tagging photos, and I will always be behind. I just will never be caught up, and I'm not going to worry about it. It is what it is. Okay, so that's online processing. Please share below the online processor that you are using. What's the price point? And then also too, are you are you a photo lover, meaning you look at color? Do you look at definition? Do you look at the shades of your colors and, framing, things like that? Because, anybody can get things printed at Snapfish, and for most people that aren't scrapbookers, they're going to be happy with them. But, I don't know, I said this earlier, and I just can't get over this. Printing at Epson, with an Epson PictureMate, I think it totally, let me just show you this. This photo here is way better than that photo there. It's clearly a difference. It's like you're almost at two different places. That doesn't even look like real wood. Yes, okay? So we're storytellers. We want the photos to help tell the story. So, yeah, I'm just really surprised how off that is in color. It really is. Okay, enough talking about that. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about setting up a printing schedule. And I'm anxious to see what you gals have to say about that too. And then also too, what size do I normally print when I'm printing in my photos? So one more segment. Hang on. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual task of printing photos, whether you are going to print them at home or when you're going to send them to an online processor. How are we going to actually get this job done and have it done on a more regular basis? Let's talk about that, because I'm going to share what I've been doing over the last couple of years, and I can say I think I'm having some progress. Some being the key word. Okay, so with that being said, I know this video is long, and thank you for sticking with me to the end, but because this is an ongoing subject and will always be an ongoing subject, so please keep the dialogue going down below in the comment section. What is working for you? What is not working for you? Because you have no idea what one little tip you share will make a huge difference in someone else's process. So please be free and share, and continuously share. Okay, so now let's talk about our photos. And I would say, when people say about winning the lottery, they say, oh, I would buy this vehicle. I'd go on a trip to Italy. I would do this. I would do that. Well, what I would do, of course, after all college loans were paid, what I would do is I would pay someone to print my photos. I kid you not, I've talked about this to my hubby as many times as I can remember, and I said that's exactly what I would do. I'd pay someone to print my photos, because I was talking about this earlier. We print so many photos, it's impossible to have every photo that you've ever taken printed. And I also cannot just go to my printer and print as I want to scrapbook, because that slows me down. So I go from being unrealistic to slowing down. So I have to find the balance. And I think I've been working on that a little bit. Okay, so my lottery dream, yes, would be that every photo I have ever taken would be print in a 4x6 and a wallet. And we'll talk about what sizes, because I have a little bit of tips about that too. So the one thing I have been doing the last couple years is that I have been printing my photos on a regular basis, and the only way I do that is paying attention to that regular basis. And that is no different than what I showed earlier, that when I come to my planner and you see the first of the month I have download photos, well, for me in my life, Thursdays is the day that I do office work, paperwork, return phone calls, all that stuff. That is the day I do my office work. So that is the same day I use to address photos because I'm in the same room anyways. Why not? Okay. So for me, I just have, pay my bills and do my photos. Bills, photos, bills, photos. And if you look at every one of my month, I have the same thing. Yes, I do. And by the way, if you're a left-handed person, do you know that on August the 13th of 2019 is left-handed day? Yes, maybe we'll do a start to finish about that. Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to say. You have to absolutely put it on your calendar or your planner or on your phone, and each week, or maybe it's every 2 weeks, whatever fits your style, whatever fits your schedule, whether you're printing at home or maybe getting photos ready to send to an online processor, whatever the case may be, okay? Maybe it's once a month, whatever, doesn't matter. No right way, no wrong way. Yes, I think I should get a t-shirt that says that. Of course, if I wore that out in public, I don't know what people would think. But anyways, moving on. You have to set forth a schedule. And so this is what I've been doing for the last couple of years. Now, does that mean that every single week I am printing photos? No, because some weeks it just doesn't work. Some days some weeks I'm not home, okay? So, but at least I'm thinking of photos. So if I'm not printing, maybe I'm looking at putting some photos away, or maybe I'm sorting some photos, purging some photos, giving photos away. Something in the photo category I'm usually trying to address. And at least they're on my brain, even if I don't get it done, at least it went through my brain, okay? So that's what I wanted to say. You need to set forth a schedule. Of course, I think that's about anything in life. If you don't write it down and plan the work, yes, plan the work and then work the plan, it just doesn't get done. We can't remember. So over the last couple years, on Thursdays every week, I address my photos in some form or fashion. Okay, so now let's talk about so why I do that is so then I can find that balance, what I was talking about, because it's unrealistic for me to think I'm going to have every photo. I gave that up. That is never going to be achieved by me. I'm not going to have my photos printed all the time. It's just not going to happen, okay? So I gave it up. But what I can do is find that balance, and that balance is I'm not going to wait till I want to sit down and scrapbook a page to go print a photo. So I am printing ahead a little bit at a time. And you can see with the Disney trip, I have lots to scrapbook about. Yes, okay. So then let's talk about what sizes do I print, and what would I give the advice if someone was asking me, because I did get that question, what size to print. So you just set forth a schedule, print when you can, how often you can, and keep up with it, okay? And if some weeks go by and you don't get to print, no worries. No one's going to come down and beat your door and say, well, you didn't get any photos done, okay? So what I prefer, and I think this happens the more you print, whether it's printing at home or online, after a while, you get to know your style in scrapbooking, and then you get to know what size photos you like. So basically, as a general rule, what I do is I print, if I'm doing a 2-page layout, say, a 2-page layout, I will print my favorites in a 4x6, and then all my supporting photos are in a wallet, and that is how I simplified my process over the years. I don't do 4x4s, and I don't do this and I don't do that. Sometimes if I'm doing the load event and it's a certain story, might get a little bit creative, but all in all, I print 4x6, and then if I have a lot of extra photos, they're all going in wallet, because that's just the best way. Because if I print everything in 4x6, I'm not going to get them all on. So there's no sense printing everything in a 4x6. However, when I send things to an online processor, I don't deal with wallets and odd sizes. They can't get it right. No. So I say when you're printing online, whatever you can do to make that process go more simple and easier, that's what you should do. So you had saw in those Disney, that huge box of 1,000. And I don't know if I addressed, I don't know if I addressed that, but these were all in 4x6. I just made it easy for myself. I picked one size, sent them all off at 4x6. I just thought it was easier. And plus, when you start to getting into wallets and different sizes, 4x4s, different finishing, different touches, different touch-ups, it's going to cost you more money. And I don't know if I said this, but in all those comparison photos that I showed before, each one of that, whatever company you picked, it was all 10 cents, okay? It was just across the board. That seems to be the price for online photos. And they were all free shipping. Okay, so what I would say when you're printing, you need to print what fits your style. If you are solely a 4x6 scrapbooker, then don't even look at wallets and 4x4s and all that good stuff and borders, and just print 4x6 and be done, because you can always cut photos down. I would say if you don't know what to do, print 4x6 and the rest will follow. That's the simplest way. But for me, it's my favorites in 4x6 and my supporting will be in wallets. And that's how I print my wallets. 2 wallets on 1 4x6. That's how I do that. Okay, I'm looking at my notes here. Okay, so, and that was one of the notes I made. If I can read my chicken scratch. I think so. Yes. Now I wanted to say, how do I determine what I'm going to print? Because I already told you when I print. I print on Thursdays. That's just what I do. And if it doesn't happen on a Thursday, I'll address it the next Thursday. But at least 4 times a month, it's going through my brain about photos as far as printing or organizing, sorting, that type of thing. So if I know when I'm going to print, so how do I decide what to print? And I would say for me, I scrapbook a little bit about everything, and I go from year to year. I'm not chronological. So it really all depends on my mood and what I'm working on at the moment. There is no set rule as to what I'm printing. It's just whatever strikes my mood, whatever project I'm working on, or whatever challenge I'm doing. So there is no set rule. I don't say, oh, okay, well, this month I'm going to print this. No, one week I may say, okay, I'm going to work on my month in review pages. The next week it may be Disney. The next week it may be Myrtle Beach pages. The next week I might say, oh, I'm going to print some photos that my dad's been sending. I don't plan that out ahead. It's just whatever strikes my mood. Yes, okay. And then let's say, I do want to say one thing. Printing ahead. Yes. If you're someone that you just go to your printer and you print photos as you set to scrap, I want you to think about maybe going ahead and printing a month's worth of photos at a time. And you say, well, I don't know what I'm going to work on. Just pick something, okay? Because I will guarantee you, and this is what I found, if I waited and printed when I wanted to scrap, and so I went to another room and I printed photos, I literally would get stuck there at my printer for 45 minutes to an hour because I can get lost in photos and stay here a whole day because I just love photos, okay? And so I have to tell myself there are days I have to focus on printing and there's days I have to focus on scrapbooking. I can't do photo printing and scrapbooking all in the same day. It's just too much for me because when I get into scrapping zone, I want to scrap. If I get into photo printing mode, I want to print photos. So I want to suggest if you're someone that you only print as you go, you possibly could increase the amount of pages you do and your process time by simply printing photos ahead of time. And that means taking the whole month, say if we're in March, go back to February, take every photo that you want in February that you think you may want to scrap, not print. Let me just say that right now. You do not need to print every photo you took because you're not going to scrap every photo you took. It's unrealistic. It just does not happen unless you're someone who only takes 10 photos a month. But for the majority of us as scrapbookers and someone who loves photos, you cannot scrap every photo you take. No, it's just not possible. It just isn't, okay? So with that being said, you can increase your process time, increase the number of pages you do by simply printing off a chunk of photos at one time, okay? So maybe go in and print 50 photos, and then for the next month, don't print any photos, just scrapbook for a while, okay? So try that. I think that saves some time. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say as far as what sizes I print, how often I print, what I print. If there's any question I didn't cover, please list below, because I'm sure there's lots of things that I don't have an issue with, but you do. Just list those questions below. Someone will have an answer, and please share as much as information, your tips and tricks, because there are some people that are very diligent about printing every photo that they want for the month. I did it one time until tagging came along and trips came along. It just puts me behind, okay? Because I can't honestly print a Disney trip and then every other photo I took that month and then next month do it all over again. I just can't, because it's not affordable, and second of all, I don't have that kind of time. No, because when I do print photos on my Thursday, it may be only 30 photos. It's not a whole 100 or 150. No, it might be just 30 photos, okay? It's just whatever I have time for. So that concludes part 3 in our photo series, and so I really encourage you to read the comments below and keep reading the comments below, because I'm sure other people will be adding in tips and tricks and ideas that I didn't even cover. Absolutely. So now what do we have coming up in our next portion of our photo series? We are going to be talking about sorting photos, and that may be a 2-part video as well. So come back to RTS, because you never know what we're going to do. Bye.